Okay, this is my first in a series of explorations into Samuel Renshaw, a very interesting person it looks like. But before we find out more about him, let's read how I found out about him. This is from Citizen of the Galaxy by Robert A. Heinlein, page 26. Baslam no longer tried to hide his ex-professional activities from Thorby, although he never explained the why or how. Some days only one of them would beg, in which case the Plaza of Liberty was always the pitch, for it appeared that Baslam was especially interested in arrivals and departures of ships, and most especially movements of slave ships and the auction that always followed the arrival of one. Thorby was more used to him after his education had progressed. The old man seemed to think that everyone had a perfect memory, and he was stubborn enough to impress his belief despite the boy's grumbles. "Aw, Pop, how do you expect me to remember? You didn't give me a chance to look at it." I projected that page at least 3 seconds. "Why didn't you read it?" "Huh? There wasn't time." "I read it. You can too, Thorby. You've seen jugglers in the plaza. You've seen old Mickey stand on his head and keep 9 daggers in the air while he spins 4 hoops with his feet." Sure. Can you do that?" "No." "Could you learn to?" I don't know. Anyone can learn to juggle, with enough practice and enough beatings." The old man picked up a spoon, a stylus, and a knife, and kept them in the air in a simple fountain. Presently he missed and stopped. "I used to do it a little, just for fun. This is juggling with the mind. Anyone can learn it too." "Show me how you did that, Pop." "Another time. If you behave yourself. Right now you're learning to use your eyes, Thorby. This mind juggling was developed a long time ago by a wise man, a Dr. Renshaw, on the planet Earth. You've heard of Earth." "Well, sure, I've heard of it." Meaning you don't believe in it?" I don't know, but all that stuff about frozen water falling from the sky and cannibals 10 feet tall and towers higher than the Praesidium and little men no bigger than dolls that live in trees. Well, I'm not a fool, Pop." Basil sighed and wondered how many thousands of times he had sighed since saddling himself with the sun. "Stories get mixed up. Someday, when you've learned to read, I'll let you view books you can trust." "But I can read now." "You just think you can, Thorby. There is such a place as Earth, and it truly is strange and wonderful, a most unlikely planet. Many wise men have lived and died there, along with the usual proportion of fools and villains, and some of their wisdom has come down to us. Samuel Renshaw was one such wise man. He proved that most people go all their lives only half awake. More than that, he showed how a man could wake up and live, see with his eyes, hear with his ears, taste with his tongue, think with his mind, and remember perfectly what he saw, heard, tasted, thought." The old man shoved his stump out. "This doesn't make me a cripple. I see more with my one eye than you do with two. I am growing deaf, but not as deaf as you are, because what I hear, I remember. Which one of us is a cripple?" "But son, you aren't going to stay crippled, for I am going to Renshaw you if I have to beat your silly head in." And yeah, I could keep going, but the book is very good. Check it out. There's an audiobook on YouTube for free. And speaking of YouTube, let's go to YouTube and see if we find anything about Dr. Samuel Renshaw. Okay. Doesn't look like a lot. No, none of these are Dr. Samuel Renshaw. Let's look without the doctor. Okay. Looks like a bunch of music. Nothing about Samuel Renshaw. Interesting. We can check Wikipedia. This is the first place I confirmed that he probably existed. Samuel Renshaw, 1892 to 1981, was an American psychologist whose work became famous for a short period of time during World War II, when he taught sailors to identify enemy aircraft in a split second using tachyscopic training. Tachyscopic. He generally worked with fast reading and enhanced the latent ability of the mind. He believed that most people used only 1/5 of their available mind power to process information. By using methods of flashing pages, he produced students who could read as fast as 1,200 to 14 words per minute. Renshaw became involved in the establishment of the Midwestern Psychological Association and served as the organization's secretary-treasurer in 1929. For his contributions to the war effort, the United States Navy awarded him the Navy Distinguished Public Service Award in 1955. He wrote 23 volumes of a journal, Visual Psychology. Robert A. Heinlein depicted his technique in several of his works, including Citizen of the Galaxy in 1957 and Golf 1949, and mentioned Renshaw in the context of the training of fair witnesses in Stranger in a Strange Land, 1961. He cited a Saturday Evening Post article on Renshaw's studies for responses to fan mail about the subject. Okay. Saturday Evening Post article on Renshaw's studies. That sounds interesting. This technique and equipment appeared at the Ravenwood School District near Stanford University for a short time in the 1960s. Several young students took part in the experiment, which involved film strip readers and page-at-a-glance equipment. The Renshaw training system for aircraft and ship recognition was considered to have saved untold lives during World War II. Okay, he wrote a book, The Visual Perception and Reproduction of Forms of Tachyscopic Methods, or an article. Interesting. Okay, let's look at these two things. There has been an interest over many years in the psychological mechanisms involved in the speed of perceiving and reproducing digit patterns by the mathematical prodigies, les calculateuses grandes. Oh God, my French. This is something I'm going to look at later. In this article, okay, I should probably read it out loud if I'm going to read it. You're Not as Smart as You Could Be, by David G. Whittles. Reading at a comfortable pace and without skipping, most intelligent adults will need at least 20 minutes to go through part 1 of this article. Out at Ohio State University, however, a college professor named Dr. Samuel Renshaw has trained 2 students to read so swiftly that they could finish it in around 5 minutes. He taught one to read at a rate of 1416 words a minute and the other 1185. The average for college students on magazine material is about 250 words a minute. Okay. Renshaw is an experimental psychologist, which means that he does laboratory research on what makes people tick. He trained those students not as a stunt aimed at creating a species of intellectual two-headed freaks, but as part of a long series of experiments based on his belief that most people are only about 20% alive. That is not quite the way he would put it, since like most scientists, he's a bit addicted to scientific gobbledygook. What? But he has stated that the average Homo sapiens is achieved only on the order of 20% utilization of the sense modalities. Translated, it is an accusation that we use our eyes, ears, nose, taste buds, sense of touch, and minds at 1/5 or less of potential capacity. That is not a brand new concept. William James having said somewhat the same thing more than 50 years ago, and threads of it go back at least to Aristotle. But Renshaw belongs to a small group of researchers who are trying to do something about it. He holds the beliefs, which may be naive, that people like racehorses, television, and atom bombs can be improved. In 13 drab classrooms and laboratories with Rube Goldbergian devices on the 4th floor of a brick building on the campus in Columbus, Ohio, he hunts for ways to teach people to see better, taste more keenly, and develop prodigious memories. A pipe-smoking, terrier-like man who looks much younger than his 55 years, Renshaw has been digging in that direction for more than a quarter of a century. Most of his nuggets have come in the field of vision, where he created the reading wizards. He believes that reading skill is mainly a matter of seeing the right way, and that most people don't know how to do that. Proper seeing, he contends, is a skill which needs to be learned, like playing the piano, speaking French, or playing good golf. He claims that the eyes, like a pianist's fingers, can be taught to perform with amazing virtuosity. Therefore, he teaches faster reading by training his students' eyes to see better. On the same general principles, he created what the Army and Navy officially call the Renshaw recognition system, a method for training men swiftly to spot airplanes amid warships. During the recent war, to spot warplanes and warships. During the recent war, it was a closely guarded military secret, and somehow it has missed being publicized since. It officially is credited with saving thousands of lives and an unestimated number of airplanes and warships by teaching the men to recognize aircraft more swiftly and accurately than had been believed possible. Renshaw has also developed a revolutionarily new method for treating bad eyesight, which he claims is usually due to lack of skill in using the eyes. In fact, he argues that most cases of nearsightedness are due to psychological rather than physical factors, and that they can be helped considerably by training. With this, however, he has stirred up a hornet's nest. While some eye doctors hail him as a great scientific benefactor, others damn him as a fool and a charlatan. Charlatan? Yeah. Incidentally, his method is not to be confused with the one widely publicized in a book by Aldous Huxley a few years ago, nor with any other so-called muscle exercise systems. Except in technical journals, it has never been printed before. In all three matters, reading skill, recognition system and eye treatments, Renshaw relies heavily upon a gadget which, though he has improved it considerably, has been used in experimental work for at least 75 years. It is merely a glorified magic lantern with an attachment for regulating the length of time for which slides are shown on a screen. In scientific terminology, it is called a tachistoscope. To the layman, however, the term magic... Oh, damn it. Okay. It is merely a glorified magic lantern. Okay, length of time. However, the term magic lantern seems much more apt because with it, Renshaw and the disciples get results which seem to savor of magic. To give those two students their phenomenal reading speeds, he flashed on slides containing from 5 to 9 digits at speeds ranging up to 1/100th of a second and asked them to try to remember and repeat the numbers. That's all there was to it. For 33 half-hour sessions. Can't make this stuff up, guys. There was no practice in reading print. But as the students learned to recognize and remember numbers at that speed, their reading time on books, magazines, articles, and newspapers increased as if by a miracle. Okay. Furthermore, when the co-ed who hit 1,416 words a minute was tested to see if she really understood what she read at the amazing rate, she scored nearly 100% in comprehension. That was in itself quite a feat. The average educated adult given such a test immediately after reading an article at his normal speed usually will score about 50%. That does not mean that everyone can equal the marks set by Renshaw's two prize guinea pigs. They were externally brilliant students who, even before he went to work on them, could read at 656 and 566 words a minute respectively. But Renshaw contends that everyone can be taught to read faster and understand better and get keener eyesight as a bonus. With some additions, the experiment was tried out on children in the first grade in schools in Texas City, Texas, Gary, Indiana, and Bexley, Ohio. After the training, the children were able to read at third grade levels, with some approaching fourth grade marks. 56 engineers and scientists at the Battelle Memorial Institute, one of the country's two greatest metallurgical research organizations, appealed to Renshaw because pressure of wartime work got them so worn down they could not keep up with their necessary reading. After 30 sessions, each at the end of a wearying day, their average had gone from 262 words a minute to 313, with several men increasing 100 words and one man going up 150. That was, not as fast. At the same time, their comprehension went from 52 to 85%. Oh, that's pretty good. That meant that they were able to grasp in one reading reports which previously might have required 2 or 3 readings. Hearing of Renshaw's work, the General Electric Company hired Dr. William C. Schwarzbeck, who had worked with Renshaw in developing some of his theories and who was a lieutenant commander in the Navy, had taught the Renshaw recognition system. Schwartzbeck, a brilliant research psychologist in his own right, was given no specific job. His boss, M. Boring, manager of technical personnel for General Electric, figured out that the Renshaw-Schwartzbeck theories ought to prove useful somewhere in that huge organization. At this writing, Schwartzbeck has put 120 employees, ranging from upper bracket executives and averaging 45 years of age to girl stenographers in their late teens, through a 36-hour course spread over 12 weeks. Their average reading speed increased nearly one-third, with one smart young engineer jumping from 300 words a minute to 700, and the comprehension soared to an average of 82%. One executive reported that whereas it used to take him 6.5 hours to read and answer his mail, now it takes him only 4 hours. Okay, there's some progress. College professors' salaries being what they are, Dr. Samuel Renshaw is not averse to turning an honest extra dollar on outside projects, but he has refused to cash in on popularization of his vision work. Recently, an engineer came to him with a proposition for manufacturing a tachistoscope out of plastic and a wire spring. Renshaw shooed him away. Fortunately, the mother of his 2 children, the former Vivian Hart, who was a graduate student of his before they were married 17 years ago, understands why he doesn't want to get rich that way. He believes that a crude tachistoscope, particularly in inexpert hands, could do more harm than good. I'll finish reading this in a bit.